was thinking about her for a little while, and she was very fleeting. She's still fleeting at times. But I'm beginning to think that this is one of her characteristics, and she changes a lot based on different characters. But that is the stable ground, her neutral ground that I was trying to find. And I'm thinking that ground's much more closer to the storyteller or narrator. It's the more neutral ground. This is where she is. Similar characteristics of how the storyteller was, but I think she's a bit more mature because she's a fox now. And I found I want to go back to that excerpt from Pessoa because I think it describes exactly what she is. So I'm the suburbs of a non-existent town, the long-winded commentary on a book never written. I am no one at all. I don't know how to feel, how to think, how to want. I'm the character of an unwritten novel, waiting in the air, dispersed without having ever been among the dreams of someone who did not know how to complete me.
Wow. So good.
Interesting. And I don't think there's a lot that the audience can know about her, but one of the things that we can know about her is that there is a very long story, and at some part in this story, the story was gone. And it all started when she tried to reconnect with a story, but then she realized that there's so many more stories out there. So I think she's a time and story traveler. I was also thinking about her interactions with the other characters, and it's just, I was thinking a little bit, and I might be completely wrong because I haven't seen these characters in a long time, but I was almost thinking what it means for the storyteller to get in touch with all these different stories. And one thing I've been noticing from improvisation is that there's different tensions when the fox meets different characters, and these tensions are very much related to the characters themselves. So I think it's very relevant to the mirrors that we were talking about. And if I consider all of these characters living in a city or building together and being different cities on their own, I'm just thinking, what does it mean in terms of us being humans? And I was almost thinking that a lot of these encounters are a lot about different stages in life almost. Because there's Amelia, the young woman, with kind of playfulness, curiosity, and in the sense that at the same time there's some trickstery elements. And then there's Miss Nocturnes, which is more kind of have found her feet, and it's dedication and stability. She's a professional, and at the same time there's the trickiness and greed that comes in as well, and kind of the wanting something different, wanting something more. And when we talk about Tadicus, how I see Tadicus, he's lived a very big part of his life, and there's kind of the tension of kind of the courage and wanting to connect and wanting stability, and at the same time things are fleeting. There's a lot of fear and isolation and withdrawal. So there's a lot around that, and I'm thinking that's very relevant to specific age span sometimes. And there's the forgetful woman, and we talk about loss and grief a lot. And at the same time, there's nostalgia, there's a sense of warmth and finding little things and connecting with them. And I remember in the improvisation with Judy, we were talking a lot about kind of these stories or moments existing in the air, almost like pieces of hair, and what happens when you interweave them. So I think the fox could possibly act as a connecting element in this kind of board of characters, and almost like knitting the stories together and changing the dynamics in the story to connect them with another one.
got
Yeah.
it. We got it. Great. That's amazing. I love it. It gives me lots of visual images as well, as in like performance or stage images or video images, whatever it's going to be. Like you said, the hair, I remember that improv very well. It was really nice. I literally just imagined loads of
That you two did.
strings of hair in the air and picking and but this character existing, like as you say, kind of on the borders in between, and and weaving the stories together, like almost, it's very literal, but I do almost see one story. Oh, that's nice.
Okay, well, I'll tell you after. Yeah.
One story. I'm not gonna finish. It's very beautiful. I can finish one story, like kind of like literally weaving the two together, or something else being weaved together.
And also, like, you were fitting the city pieces together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Two pieces.
Nice.
Yeah. And I was almost thinking in terms of staging and physicality. It could be something physical like that. It could also be almost introducing objects that are very important for the character. So what happens when I bring you an orange? And
that's nice.
And are we thinking now, kind of trying to collect and realign my thoughts about the fox, that she, like the quote that you read out, very much brings her as a character, and the way you're exploring her is a character less tangible than the other characters, less human. She's fox, so she is in this like stranger place, yet still more with building on her with some traits, I guess. And so then, and is she, I guess I'm thinking of then like the other part of what the fox has been, it's like this essence spirit thing. Is she like an agent of, we got there at some point, didn't we?
I think that's, you and I had a conversation.
Was that, okay. So that feels like then it makes sense that she's like the step between this like essence, spirit of the city that's unnameable, that's kind of in the marbles. And she's between that world that doesn't really have form
and body
and our world, which is more of the tangible city. Does that right?
Yeah,
I don't know, there's kind of questioning aloud.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense, and it fits with time and story traveling as well. Kind of in between the
Yeah, I
ways
love
between
that
the
so
story
much.
traveling.
Yeah. Great. Cool. That feels like tangible. Right.
I can go next. I think what I'll do is just read a couple of bits and maybe just kind of for myself and you guys just remind what the Forgetful Woman is about. And I'll just go through. So me and Lucy did a window interview documentary thing, and that's the stuff that came out. That actually some of it I don't use it yet. But I think we hit on some sort of essence for her when you and I
When you were interviewing
me.
God, this is so weird. Going back to memories that were on Zoom.
I know.
So I was like, what the fuck? I was sitting on my bed. Okay, carry on. This was a long time ago as well, wasn't it?
And it was 21st of the 6th, 21, 21, 6, 21.
What does that mean? Wow. June 21.
June 21.
A year ago.
A year ago.
Oh shit. Okay.
We're almost in June. Wow. Okay.
So here's what we discovered. And then I really took some elements, I think, and I kind of built on them a little bit. So, she's not entirely sure why or is that actually happened, but she began losing her memory on the day when she found a bag of oranges and went to a cafe, and one orange began to roll through the city. So that's me and Anna doing improvisation a long time The forgetful woman loves coffee. To make her map, she collects stuff others discard, throw away in the streets. She lived in the city for a very long time. She's not making the map for herself, but for the others. She loves water. After she finishes the map, she will go on a journey, on a boat trip. She needs some peace and quiet to regain her memories. However, there's a touch of madness about her. She walks the city barefoot. She's determined to discover everything about the city and place it on her map. She collects rubbish. But for her, the rubbish signifies other things and can be used on the map to mark those things, like unborn babies or dead people or foxes. Her map will never be finished. It's an impossible task. And as a result, her boat trip will never happen. So there's a tragic element about her. She will never leave the city. There's a certain roughness and forwardness to her character, but she's not rude. She writes down things so she remembers stuff, but it's not very helpful. And then on the back of this, either just before this or just after this, I think it was afterwards that I wrote her myth. So I quickly go through it. And then I want to share another piece of text that I've written. I don't think I've even shared this with you guys. Maybe I have a long time ago. That I haven't worked with it yet, but I reread it the other day. And I was like, oh, she's still there. I wrote this 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago. So the myth is that a woman lives in a city and she always had this really need for knowledge, to know everything about the city and the people and every street and every house and every tunnel but the city of course is very vast and it's changing and it's impossible to get to know it as well as she wants to know it. And then one evening she calls upon the city spirit, just out of the blue, and asks it to help her. And the city spirit appears to her, bathed in a bright orange light. And they had a conversation. And the city spirit said, okay, I will help you, I will give you the knowledge, but in exchange I would like your memories. And without even thinking, the woman is like, yes, of course, yeah, take all the memories. And the city spirit, even without saying anything, disappeared. And the woman started her everlasting existence, and she started making a very intricate map of the entire city that showed every building, including those not yet built, every route, including those not yet taken, every person alive, dead, and yet to be born. And to begin with, didn't feel very different. Only at times she would forget small things like people's names or where she had to be. But as time passed, her forgetfulness started to increase, as if something was eating at her mind at night. And she got to know more and more of the city, but she also started to forget more and more and more and more. Until it got so bad that she forgot meeting the city spirit. She forgot why she's doing what she's doing, the collecting and the map and her need for knowledge. And then she forgot her name. And as we said, in the block of flats, she thinks that she is in the block of flats living in the city, but in fact she is in a jar at Miss Nocturne's flat on the shelf. So that jar contains the whole city, the whole universe of the forgetful woman.
And do we know when that happened?
Not completely, not like properly.
You and Hannah didn't.
But Hannah, I think Hannah knows.
It happens at the end of your scene.
Hannah knows. She snatches me because she's going around snatching people.
Yeah. I love it.
And then so this is like the myth. And then I wrote another text. I think I'll say I rather she and her in this actually, to make it a bit closer to her. But I wrote this, almost 2 years ago. My forgetfulness has fractured my consciousness. My thoughts are like pieces in a collage, and from time to time I try to put myself back together. From the moment I wake up until I go back to sleep in my flat, one image, memory, smell, sound, sensation after other flies by in my mind. I rarely linger on any single one of them. Fleeting moments, a broken piece of glass on the pavement, a plane crossing the sky, a woman smiling at me, bells chiming, dead bird, a fox, and fleeting sensations like smell of coffee, smell of oranges, hunger, pain from stepping on a burning cigarette butt make up my day. I'm like a child who gets distracted by every new thing I see, experience, remember, or can't remember. Eternally present, eternally forgetful. I walk the streets of the city barefoot, stepping on all the grime, dust, stones, cigarette butts, rubbish, and dog poo. My feet absorb the sweaty tears and blood of the city's inhabitants. And my feet get heavy, real heavy, by the end of the day. I'm barely able to drag them back to my flat just before the church bells chime midnight. I stand in the middle of the empty kitchen and feel the dirt and blood of the city overwhelm my body. It rises up from the soles of my feet, up to my knees and hips, into my womb and up to my breasts, into my shoulder blades, jaw and forehead. It drags me down onto the tiled floor where I have spilled a packet of coffee beans a very long time ago.
It's great. It's really useful.
It's nice,
Wow, that really adds an extra element to that that wasn't there before.
What is it?
Something about the feet.
The feet,
Her absorbing of the city. I'd sort of seen her before as, I don't know, almost a bit emptier and a bit more like the city bounces off her. Whereas now that gives me that it's in her, she's in it, it's much more like embedded.
I'm thinking that it's interesting the myth and the theme of exchange and sacrifice is such it's a fairy tale pattern that there's something there. And if we talk about, if we want to call it a chapter like collections, there's something there. I'm thinking that theme also it extends in so many stories, like things that the city has gotten, that has given, and like how it give to the city kind of a tone that is not, it's not perfect, and it's very ugly, but it can be very beautiful, but it can be horrendous at the same time and take things away from you, and it's very visceral.
Like this morning, sorry, just reminded me, I was on a train to Moorgate, and this lovely, tiny Asian lady with a mask walking past at the station, and she had one of those signs that are triangles with a duck. Like one of those magic moments when you go, what on earth are you doing?
Nothing.
And she just walked by.
Wow, great. Well, and I laughed at the beginning of one of those because that's like exactly like this morning, like the city changing all the time and you don't even recognise it. Like that's exactly what we all had this morning. And there's the fragmentation as well. It's interesting where, I mean, it can be a very loose link, but it reminds me again of trauma. I'm just thinking, I hope the camera's not picking up their sound more than our sound in that corner. Maybe we could move it to that corner.
Yeah. Shall we? Yeah.
Yeah, when we start.
I was also thinking something, but it might be relevant. It's just something that popped up. Reading the second text, I was thinking that kind of it's very magical, very, very magical, and kind of combining with the realism. I'm almost thinking, because she describes exactly what her life is and how it's impacted. Could we combine it with a routine checkup at the doctor? And the kind of bits of that kind of pop in and
yeah.
That's like the rooting into the everyday world.
Yeah. That is interesting. Yeah, I like that. I like that. Yeah. Because actually, that gives me in my head, that I can't find words today. That made me think. I would love for these texts to be incorporated in the performance in a way that is not just a monologue, that is not just a dialogue. But as you say, it's almost in unexpected ways, So we are not too precious about them, and we can just place it in a doctor's. Why not? Why can't forgetful woman go to doctors? Because her fertility for crying out loud.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then through that weird exchange that maybe starts very, very deadpan with stuff. I love it. It's actually really cool.
It's like the scene that we started working on before the last online sharing, that then we couldn't
how's it called? Census, yes.
Census.
No,
so we
shit.
started gathering together some questions from where they actually are. And we were like, oh my god, this is fucking gold.
Yeah.
And we should come back to that at some point.
Yes.
Maybe not today,
Yeah,
but
today.
definitely. Yeah.
Let's play with it more.
And anything else that happens in our lives in cities, can definitely find a place. Definitely.
When something, I'm just going to say it now when I remember, it mightn't be linked to this necessarily, but something that came to me when I was walking this morning is remembering that the beginning of chance encounters and moments of connection. And when I was thinking of when are they lost in a city? And it's when you're rushing. And simple things like slowing down. So there could be when the characters meet. I know there might be something there. I suddenly had an image of everyone moving really fast and one person moving really, really slowly. Simple stuff like that.
Totally. Or as you say, everyone moving very fast and someone is doing something very slowly. And suddenly that's really revealed. Totally. Or weeping.
And that was a big. I didn't bring Tad's collage because it wouldn't travel well. But that's a big thing in his collage is the rush. There's when I was doing it, there was this sense of rush coming through all the time. So I don't know where it goes yet, but it's something that's come up a few times. Shall I read any reminders?
Yes, please.
So it's all stuff that you will have heard before, but maybe I'll just go over it to remind us. Well, his map is vanilla, cinnamon, orange, lavender, sea salt. And I think maybe I'll just read out his story again, and that might be enough. Oh, and story and the containers text that I shared with you in the last. he was lost, moving from place to place, when he was without much memory of who he was or what he was doing, Titicus set off on a journey across the city. A journey with a half-finished map to find ingredients to make his sister a birthday cake. This journey took many years, during which he slept on the streets. The speed of the city was a lot for him, and it made his head grow heavy. His head was full of pieces of it. I was carrying a lot at that time. Every time a person of the city dropped a piece of rubbish on the floor, his head would grow a bit more. Strange, I know. That's just what happened. There was a nice person who used to speak to people on the streets of the city. She was kind and used to hand out gifts. There was a big, thick river that crossed the city, dividing it high and low. During his journey, Titicus crossed it many times. My map: vanilla, cinnamon, orange. Twice, this nice person, a young woman, bird girl. What was that? Bird girl. That was her name. Bird girl. Ah, twice, bird girl finds Titicus on one side of the river and gently reminds him to cross it. That he is looking for ingredients to make his sister a birthday cake. Ah, yeah. Follow my map. Just keep following my map. Another time she, the young woman, bird girl, gave Titicus a bunch of lavender. 12 twigs, dried, wrapped round and tied in a bow with a piece of light brown twine. Oh. She and I, my sister and my mum and my dad, we went on holiday. Yeah, we crossed the sea. Yeah, and when we got to the other side, then there was these fields of purple. They were just fields of purple. There's lavender. Yeah, that's what it was. There's fields of lavender. And we played. Yeah. Me and my sister went about this high, and we played in the lavender. Yeah, it was a good day. Sometimes Titicus would walk so far in the city that he would come out the other side and find himself by the sea. A timeless place, where he'd breathe in deeply and taste sea salt all over his tongue. There was always a dog there, playing in the waves. One day, the dog turned around and walked with Titicus all the way back into the city. Gull, like seagull. Gull was his name. Titicus and Gull used to like watching the glimmers of the city. They would appear a lot in the early years. They saw them on the wings of birds and in shop windows. Vanilla, cinnamon, orange, lavender. Some people would pass him, a man with an enlarged head, full of pieces of the city, talking about sea salt, wind, birds, and the ocean. Then, someone stole his lavender. Titicus doesn't know how or when this happened, but one day someone took his lavender. He doesn't know who. And it was after this time that he began to disappear. He doesn't know why, but also during this time he developed a fear of houseplants and things kept in jars. Vanilla, cinnamon, orange, lavender, sea salt. Vanilla, cinnamon, orange, lavender, sea salt. In these later years, the glimmers were getting less and less common, and they never appeared again after the lavender incident. Another time, one when Titicus was crossing the river, he met a man called Haran. Haran was his name. Strange name, I thought, but that's what he said. Titicus and Haran played a betting game with sticks. Haran won and took all the pieces stored in Titicus's hat. This was the last time Titicus crossed the river. Eventually, by the time Titicus gets to his sister's front door,
There is a young fox there instead, and the cake has grown into mould.
I love this so much.
I've forgotten so much of that. Oh God. I'm just thinking then. I'm wondering if this links up with this properly or not. Let me just check. Okay, so I've changed something here. But I'll read it out and maybe we can choose, or maybe it links in a strange way. I collect plastic bags. I don't know why, but I do. I sort of think they might come in handy somehow. It's always useful to have something to put something in. You know, when you're out and about and you pick something up and you have to have somewhere to put it, don't you? Well, when I'm out in the city, I'm always picking things up, whether I want to or not. I seem to do it. You know, small things on the street, as you're passing by. Stoop down, pick it up. Almost feels like my job somewhere. Maybe it was sometime, past life or something. But funny thing, there's a funny thing that happens when I do pick things up. I mean, my head sort of grows a bit. Yeah, weird, isn't it? But honest, I see something on the street, or sometimes I hears it. I stoop down or I lean over and I pick it up. Sometimes I don't even know what it is, but I pick it up anyways. And then when I do, my head sort of, well, I don't know how to explain it really. Well, it grows bigger. I can tell because my hat, an old hat, I've had it for years, well, it keeps getting tighter, squeezing on my head sort of. And, well, yeah, I know this sounds a bit strange, but my neck and shoulders start to ache a little bit. Like they've got to hold something a bit heavier on them now. That being my head, I mean. And then my hat stretches out, and I guess my neck and shoulders get used to it, and I forget it happened for a while. Then I hear or see something, I stoop or I lean, I pick it up, and it happens all over again. Yeah, strange. I guess you could say, in some ways, my head's a bit like one of my plastic bags. Somewhere to put something. A container, like. You know, for those bits of the city that no one else wants. Never thought of it like that before.
Again, isn't it? It's the description of the body and body changing. I almost saw this image of Tyler as being like living on the streets and two paramedics coming by going, "You're right, mate." And you, my head.
Yeah.
Going to this crazy monologue of.
Yeah, right.
It actually happens.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. And it's in, I suddenly feel like I've just got an extra reason of what magic realism does. It's like, it's in those moments that you get a glimpse of like the reality of the moment. Like when you're coming from Tidicus, you're in the imaginative world, you're in this weird make-believe where you suspend your disbelief and anything's possible. Then in those moments, with the paramedics or in the doctor's surgery or wherever, in the coffee shop, suddenly you see it from what it would actually, like realism,
Exactly.
what it would actually be like.
Really
And then that's when there's this kind of tragic mirror. Because it's like, oh, is this man in psychosis? Oh, is this woman trapped in trauma? Like, and the beauty of it is, we don't have to go there. We don't have to say whether they are or they aren't. They can just be beautiful characters that exist in this world that's kind of magic. It's not necessarily fucked up.
Exactly. And in some ways, I mean, just on the back of what you just said, again, remind me, there's a guy in Hitchin in town next to where I live, a black dude, totally mad. He's often on the bicycle, either shouting something or singing super loud and going down. It's like almost middle of the road, super dangerous, right? And I've seen him quite a few times now. And like again, talking about city or town weirdos, and clearly everyone knows him, and kind of just we know. But in those split moments when first you hear him and then you see him, it's like whoa, yeah. But that moment, that magic, that what you just said, right? You go what? Oh yeah, I know. Okay, and then it's like encounter a bit of magic, and then you go into okay, he's probably he's got an illness or whatever.
And it's those moments, they're the beauty.
Yeah,
like
totally.
And
that
that's
takes you out of whatever. Yeah, totally.
And it's like that's I think why I love Shifty is because these characters are the stars. Like they're the stars of the show. They're not. It's making these ones that are usually like weirdly they're the most visible because of that, and yet somehow then society makes them invisible. Oh, what the fuck? Oh, I don't see you.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So
they
then
kind of.
You don't. Yeah, you
learn
really
Oh,
not to
I
see.
exactly. You block completely as if it's inappropriate.
I mean, our whole all of our structures block, literally. Like, so that's when the concept of mirror is really useful and fascinating as a kind of like device in the world.
And another image I had, because you have this beautiful thing about growing head, and I've got a thing about feet. So again, almost like in terms of a visual stage image, again building a massive head, building big feet out of something, and then liberating.
Yeah, that's why I really want to play with the head.
Yeah.
Sorry, were you going to say something?
No, I'm just thinking it's really, really great, and I'm thinking Tadikas is very built right now. You can really like see the qualities of him, and hear him and see him, and I'm thinking that the head, we need to bring back the head.
But I'm almost quite glad that I want to find almost like finding the smallest version of him. I'm getting that really set in, like I want to do it physically, his body, and then enlarge from there. Like it's like building a mask, isn't it? And then you can add it.
And you talking about ribbon stuff, so I'll show you something like that.
Can I just ask quickly, so maybe I change it in the story. So in the story I said that every time a person of the city drops a piece of rubbish, his head grows. But so I changed that to reflect what I write here, which is whenever he picks something up, his head grows.
Yeah, I like that.
Say it again, sorry. So in
the story
previous
which I
one-
wrote first
Yeah.
a while ago for our show online, I said that every time a person of the city dropped a piece of rubbish on the floor, his head would grow.
Yeah.
Whereas in here, every time he picks something up, his head grows.
I think these are relevant. It's like he's basically picking up things that he's not meant to be holding.
Yeah, because it's picking up, it's either physically picking up, or that's why I say see or hear, stoop or lean, because there's some ambiguous.
I'm just thinking, so you said this.
Oh, I almost imagine him kind of having this almost set and strange urge that it's almost like he has to. It's the rule. When somebody picks that, he's learned that's what he's learned.
Yeah.
And he has to. It's like,
Yeah.
So I think because forgetful woman picks stuff up. So it's either both of them are picking, or there's a bit of a diversity there. So someone's picking and someone. So the previous was that when someone drops something, there's a piece.
Yeah, it's almost like looking at the same thing from a different view, isn't it?
Which I kind of like.
Yeah, same.
Could it also be something that brings these two together?
And well, exactly. It's like it's nice that there's the similarity, because I'd forgotten that she picks things up when I wrote it. So it needs to be not quite the same, but almost the same. So maybe I'll play with it
Cool.
today.
Play.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, just on that. So this is why I thought it's funny. This was on the pavement as I was walking out of Victoria coach station yesterday. And I walked past it and I looked at it and I was like, before I'd even realised, I'd walked back and picked it up. I was like, oh, Tidycus!
That's super cool.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
And I was carrying this bag of plastic bags and I was like, oh, this has started already. Oh, cool.
Wow. So, if you can see better on
Oh,
here,
wow.
here's the ribbon.
Nice.
And that's like played off with printing on different quality paper. I don't know what it does having this like overlay and stuff, but there's something cool about it.
It's alive underneath.
It's like, and like it's different.
It's the parallel cities
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
And
that kind
then
of stuff.
maybe we can just turn it,
Exactly.
like in one city the river runs left to
Exactly.
right and then
And
one
then-
run it runs north to south.
And highlighting the thing again.
Really
Because I was
cool.
like, I actually would like a map, not like, you know,
Yeah.
the way we
What we call it map, but-
exactly. But to have an
Actual
actual
map.
map and to have an
Great.
actual river is cool.
Nice.
Where did you get it
So
done?
this is the map of Vilnius.
Cool.
But what it does, it only highlights the streets.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think even someone like who's aware of Vilnius on a map, it does not look anything like a normal thing. So it's just streets.
Did you get it printed?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And then I was like, okay, let's get it printed and see like what we play with. And
That's
I found
great.
this cool independent print thing people who were like, we can do it, and this kind of paper, and that kind of
I
paper,
love
and
it.
this. I was like, oh my god. So yeah, so it's
Nice.
nice. It's something to play with.
Really nice. And I kind of want to just draw over here our block of flats.
Yeah.
Maybe more short. There's 3 for now. Okay. Can't really see it.
Need a different color. There we go.
Because that's our container, really, isn't it?
Yeah. Gotcha.